Welcome to episode 2 of Automate or Not, the podcast, the very short podcast that explores whether or not automating different elements of our life is a good thing to do and what are some of the benefits and downsides. So last week, I'm here with Yossi, by the way. And
yeah, hello again.
Good to be back.
Yeah, I do have one thing before we start. One thing I want to add. I thought about a good way to put the idea of automate or not is, should you add another line or should you program another line into, or a new algorithm into your system? So you can look at it in that way. So that's kind of some kind of a metaphor.
Like adding another line of code.
Yeah. Another algorithm. Because you will need to write that algorithm. Eventually, you will need to write that algorithm. So should you add or not add another code to your algorithm?
Right. I like that. So last week we introduced the show and we spoke a little bit about food, and we were kind of erring on the side of that it's a good thing to automate meals and have them in the calendar, what you eat and when you eat, even though we did bring up some downsides. But we actually got some listener mail from one of our many
that's exciting.
Listeners. Yeah. So Corey, she's a huge fan of the show, and she wrote, so I thought it could be interesting, we thought it could be interesting to read her response and then discuss it a little bit on today's episode.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read what she sent. She said a couple of counterpoints. The need to assess hunger at mealtimes is a biological alarm that allows you to check in with your body. Assess hunger versus thirst, micro and macronutrients needs due to cravings, allows to adjust the calorie content or amount of food based on whether your energy expenditure for the day was significantly higher or lower than baseline. Big for me is that I like cooking, plain and simple. Choosing what, if anything, I want to eat and being able to create that brings joy to my life. By automating, you're also depriving yourself of gaining mindfulness in terms of the relationship between the food you eat, the amount of food or the absence of it, and how that affects you. If you always eat at a time and a set amount of quote-unquote required food, you are choosing to forgo an exercise in sensitivity to learning your body's cues for what it needs, when and in what quantities.
First of all, I really want to thank Corey for the time she put in. That's a very thoughtful
and good points.
Comment. Yeah, very good point. Do you want to start by do something, or should I?
Yeah, no. So I just I definitely want to get your thoughts. I think we should just clarify that there's a few different points here, separate out. There's one point that she's making about that the body is a good signal to what you should be consuming at any given time, and by automating, you're essentially ignoring that.
Yep.
That was her point number one. Point number two is that she really likes cooking and enjoys the process of preparing food and choosing what's involved in that. And point number three,
I think we should have a list.
No, I think point number three actually goes back to point number one. So those are the two main points. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on these objections?
I'll start with the first one. So the first one is, by automating your meals, you're not necessarily avoiding or regarding your needs or your natural body reactions. So sometimes you will need to disregard. Sometimes you won't be able, okay, is that right or isn't it right? But mostly it should be in response or in correlation with your actual body needs. So you construct that system based on your body needs, which you might not necessarily need to add more. Another part of that thing, I would say, that even though the fact that if you're not automating this, you will disregard your needs many times during the day, because by definition you disregarding what's happening during the day, because sometimes you just don't have water presented to you. Sometimes you don't have food right now. You're in school, you don't have food right now. Or you're at the meeting, so you don't have food. By automating, you actually know when you need the food, so you can prepare before or after. If that makes sense.
So just to summarize what you're saying, you said two different things. The first point was that you're not disregarding your body's needs. The automation is already based on your understanding of what you need typically,
Yeah.
and it doesn't change. You're saying basically there's a pattern, and you tap into that pattern. And your second point was that if you don't automate, you can be in tune with your body, but your life isn't going to support the needs that you need because it's not planned out properly.
Yeah, if
So-
you're not automating, exactly. If you're
Yeah.
not automating, your life is not. You don't have any control in your life by definition.
That's a
my-
little strong. But,
No, I mean on your meals.
your meals.
The fact
your
that
meals.
the fact that you're relying on your needs in the middle of a meeting would not help you to satisfy that need.
Right, because you don't
Yeah.
have food in that situation. Yeah.
Of course, it's not perfectly right, and I think you can address the second point. Second of
Yeah.
our point, I think it's easy. It's,
So the second point, yeah, you're right. It's an easy response, and you can cook and
You can cook,
automate, and those
Yeah,
things
definitely.
are you might not be cooking as regularly because part of the automation might be cooking big batches and then separating into days, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that automating means you can't enjoy cooking and the process of making food. It's just more in the system. But I think there's still a point that she's making that is true, is that you can't decide, like, it's not that you can't,
It
but
can be
you won't.
spontaneous.
Exactly, it's not a spontaneous. So it's like, oh, I want to cook Chinese right now in the middle of the day or something. If it's not in your system, you won't do that. So there's still a point there.
Yeah.
But
Which
yeah, I
I
think
might
to summarize, she brings up really good points.
agree. Yeah.
And there's definitely something to it, and this is what the show is about, is the downsides as well. And here are some downsides. We gave some of our responses to it, and we really appreciate the interaction and the support.
Yeah, it's
Keep it coming.
It's been the world to us. It's
It
been
means
the world to
it
us.
means the world to us. Keep it coming, and you guys are the best fans in the world. We love you so much.
Yeah, it's the best. And just to like final words, I think it's always good to have more comments. With the comments, we can make more lines to our code. So we're back to the algorithms thing.
There you go.
We always have like our automation. The system of automation can always use more lines, and that's a good point. So you might need sometimes to be spontaneous. Maybe once a month, have a spontaneous meal. The question
you
is,
go.
that satisfy your Corey? We hope it does.
Yeah.
And other than that, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we appreciate it, and we will see you guys here for episode 3. Until next time.